Could you use a quick tip daily? How about a tip that can impact your day? My name is Rafael. Join me as I bring you tips by experts around the world. These experts have shared their knowledge and wisdom with me and will directly share them with you. Make sure to subscribe, like, follow, and comment, and I would love for you to become part of the New Tip Daily community. Good morning, Nikki. Happy Friday. I hope you're doing exceptional.
Thank you so much. And happy Friday back to you. I am doing phenomenally exceptional. How's that?
I love it. I love it. Nikki, we're going to talk about something that people don't believe is a gift. We're calling it the gift of pain. Why are we calling it
You know, anything that happens in life, how you respond to it depends on that determines what it is.
that? Oof.
And yes, pain
Yes.
is hard. Pain can take you through incredible stages of growth if you choose it to, or defeat if you choose it to. And everything in our life, how we choose to respond to it. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, absolutely not. But what can you learn from it? How can you grow from it? And that's where it becomes a gift, not just to you, but to the world.
Wow. Wow. Not just to you, but to the world. I love it. So, how do we deal with that gift?
I think the first thing is you have to acknowledge how it is impacting you. You can't say, okay, I'm going to be happy even though I'm in pain. You get to grow with it and you get to become resilient as you see how to manage your life in that moment of pain. And that's true regardless of what's happening, because it does have an impact on you. So acknowledge the impact so that you can learn to thrive even in what other people would call chaos or negativity. When you learn to thrive, that's where you learn to be resilient. You're not saying that mountain isn't there, because if the mountain isn't there, how can you get to the top of it?
That's right. It's one of the things that a lot of people will usually say to someone is, "I know what you're going through," and I got to be honest with you, that is probably the worst thing you can say to someone. Tell me why you agree with me.
I do agree with you, because you do not live that entire life that somebody else has. You can empathize, you can possibly try and understand, but you don't know their entire history. You don't know their emotions that builds into that. When something impacts us in life, it's never just that one isolated thing. It's your whole life and history that is the foundation for how that hits you. And it minimizes how you are feeling. When somebody says, oh, I know what you're going through. No, they don't. They may think they do. And I think a better thing is to say, how are you feeling about that? Tell me your heart. Because people don't want platitudes when they're in pain. And one of my pet hates is, I'm a faith-centered coach, is God will use it for his glory. Because when somebody is in that moment of pain, that's not what they need to hear, because the immediate emotional response that usually comes up is, well, God can use somebody else to bring him glory. You know, in that moment in time, you don't need to know that your pain is going to serve a purpose. Once you begin to come out of that pain, then you can begin to see the purpose. But it helps you so much if people just say, it's okay for you to be where you're at. Not, oh, this is all good. There's a good result.
let's talk about the different types of pain that we can go through. We have the physical aspect of pain, and we have the emotional aspect of pain. So physical is if you get hurt, if you're injured, if you're ill, and the emotional is if something happens to you or someone else, and you emotionally are not 100% feeling joy or happiness or what everyone else is feeling, right? Sometimes it's sadness comes from that.
You know, I honestly believe that when you are feeling physical pain, whether you acknowledge it or not, there is an element of emotional pain.
Mhm.
And that's for two reasons. Number one, the chemical reactions in your body change in order for you to cope with that.
Mm.
So when you're feeling ill, it does affect the rest of you. It affects your emotions. And I think the same is true in the reverse. When you're emotionally in pain, it affects your body, it
Mm.
affects you physically. So we can't deny the connection between the two. And when
Right.
we look at how our brain works, it's therefore the most important thing as to how are we responding to that pain?
Mm.
It's so much about the response.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do have physical pains. There's different ones, like if you get a paper cut, if you get a cramp. Um, I I get cramps very often, and usually they're the size of grapefruits on my legs.
Oh,
Sometimes they're on my hand, and because I had polio as a kid, and so if it still affects me. Sometimes, about 2 years ago, I almost had to go to the hospital because both my legs were in such spasms, if you will, cramps. I mean, literally my legs looked like there was these things sticking out of it in the back of my quads. And I've never said I think I have to call the ambulance, but that particular night I did. And this is a constant occurrence for me. And when someone like my fiance will have a cramp and I go, oh, she goes, oh, I got a cramp. I'm like, oh, okay. And she goes, okay, it went away. It went away. I said, okay. I said, she goes, I know it's not like yours. I don't know what I would be able to do if I had cramps like yours. Mine can last 10 to 20 minutes. And so it's very different how we even learn, because I'm in constant pain, how we learn to deal with pain, how we learn to deal with that emotion. For me, it's no longer a big deal. It's just part of
mm,
my life. Right? And I know you've gone through certain things in your life where it's just part of who you are, and it doesn't affect you emotionally. It just affects you in a way that, like, okay, let me get through the next 10 minutes and and
yes,
then just keep going, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you said there is so important because we deal with it differently. We don't get to minimize the pain somebody else is going through, physically or otherwise.
Mm.
And so often we kind of go, oh, yeah, well, you just don't get it. What you're going through is nothing. And I have a saying that makes a lot of people laugh. If your greatest crisis in life is that you have no toilet paper in the bathroom, that's your crisis. And for you, it's a crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And the same with pain, be it physical or emotional.
Mm.
Um, for those of you who don't know, I spent 11 years in a wheelchair, but in constant pain. I
Mm.
was heavily medicated for the pain. My body spasmed and contorted
Mm.
all the time. And when I wasn't on medication, I would just throw up from the pain. It was constant, 24/7. Even when I was sleeping, my body was contorted.
Mhm.
And now I do still, I'm not in a wheelchair anymore, by the way. Um,
Woohoo!
Yay! And now I do have some residual effects. I do have debilitating back pain at times. And I sometimes think, well, it's okay because it's not like it used to be. And that stops me treating it correctly because my body is telling me something. And I just write it off. Same happens with emotional pain. We write it off because something else was worse. And we write off one another's pain because something else is worse. But pain is an indication that something is not right with your heart, with your mind, or with your body. It's a symptom that you get to get help either from yourself or somebody else so that you can move from that pain, so that that pain can move from being a negative to actually being a gift that you get to share the testimony of with the world, with yourself, and encourage yourself and others through.
Absolutely. I want to share with you this book, right? And it says, Jesus, help me to carry this cross. Right? You see a woman going up the stairs towards heaven, I believe, and she's carrying this cross on a chain. And that's my sister wrote this about my mom. Because that was one of the things that my mom used to say. She went from so many back surgeries to her body was straight like this to eventually, when she passed, her head was down by her knees. She totally bent forward. And so that's one of the things she used to say, God, Jesus, help me carry this cross. And she didn't complain. She was in constant pain, but she didn't complain about it. But, you know, she was a beautiful soul. And just the fact that my sister wrote that book about my mom's pain, about how all she would say is, Jesus, help me carry this cross. Right? Because if we go back to Jesus when he was carrying that cross, there was nobody helping, and he carried it. Nobody was allowed to help him, even if they wanted to. He had to carry that cross all on his own. And so, do we carry the cross, and are we complaining along the way, or are we trying to improve how we carry it?
And, you know, this relates so strongly, what you've just said, to the gift of pain, which is a compilation of those 31 authors, all who went through incredible pain and brought their stories to the world as a gift. You know, in Hebrews, it actually says that Christ counted it all joy to be going to the cross. Was the joy the fact that he was about to be nailed to the cross and hang there? No, the joy was in the outcome that was going to come afterwards. And although I said just now, don't say to somebody, oh, it's going to have a wonderful purpose.
Oh, no.
When we are in that place, if we can find something positive to focus on, like Jesus, he found joy in the results he knew would come. We do get to know that there is a purpose. We don't have to celebrate the purpose, but when we focus on that, it gives us the strength to keep going. And that cross is never too heavy for us to carry, ever. And
Not at all.
we have help. Unlike Christ, we have help when we reach out for it. And that becomes another gift that we get. We get community, we get relationships, we find those people who are trustworthy. You ever gone through pain and the people you thought would be standing by you suddenly just like whoosh, magic show, and they just disappeared? You know?
Yeah.
And the joy that Christ had in carrying that cross, he wasn't laughing and singing along the way. It was heavy. It hurt. Our pain hurts. I'm sure when you had those cramps, it hurt. You know,
Oh,
I wouldn't imagine too many bad words came out of your mouth. However, when I go through that kind of pain, sometimes I'm a little out of control there. However, even so, we get to know that we're not
mm,
defeated by it.
no, not at all.
We're not defeated by it because we are greater than our pain. We are greater than our disillusionment or anything else because Christ carried that cross.
Mhm. Nikki, one of the things, I teach martial arts as well. And one of the things that when I make people do certain things, they're like, oh, this hurts. And I'm like, congratulations. They're like, congratulations. I'm like, yes, if you feel it, you're alive because you wouldn't be able to feel that if you were dead. So, congratulations on feeling that pain. That pain, there's different kinds of pain, right? One where we're going to get growth from, like in martial arts or weightlifting or anything that is going to help you move on. Or sometimes there's a growth when you start a new business. You're not getting all the clients. So we all have different ideas on what pain is. Somebody can break up with somebody and they're going through heartache because they never imagined they wouldn't be with this person. Meanwhile, it may have been the best thing that has happened to them,
Yes.
but they don't see it at the moment. Just like when we're in actual physical pain, we don't see the results till later. So this is, I think, why a lot of people are afraid of pain. It depends on the pain too, of course.
Yeah. And uh, the fear is very often a lot of about the pain. The fear
Mhm.
brings more pain. It's a, I believe pain in life is inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
It's inevitable. If you say you never have any pain, I'm going to say, are you living? Are you actually living? Because life is filled with experiences, and experiences involve growth and disappointment. And when you were talking about the gym, the picture that came to my mind was if you're just lying sun tanning on the beach all the
Yeah.
time, you know, what are you doing with your life? And
Mm,
you might be in the sun, but you know what? That sun will eventually burn you.
mm,
And just like, hey, I use the example of the toilet paper in the bathroom. If that's your biggest crisis, well, you know what? We all really want to have toilet paper, but it's also going to run out and you're going to have to replace it.
and we know that through COVID because nobody could buy toilet paper.
Absolutely. So perfect example. Stock up. Stock
Yeah.
up on what you need to overcome the pain. We can
I,
also,
I want to talk. I want to talk
yeah,
about what you just said. That's such an important thing. Stock up on what you may need. And here's where people make a mistake. They get addicted to painkillers.
yes.
And that's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. When I've had 3 knee surgeries and I only have 2 knees. Imagine that. So, but every time I had knee surgery, they gave me these a big thing of pills for the pain. I'm like, I don't need it. You got to get it anyway. I'm like, fine. I never used painkillers ever because if the pain is happening, I'm going to deal with it. I'm a different animal, if you will.
Yeah, I
I've
was
never
about to
taken.
say that's that mindset training you
Oh,
got that's
yeah.
so powerful.
I've never taken painkillers of any kind. And even when I get a headache, my fiance will say to me, "Take a pill." I'm like, "For what? You have a headache." I said, "It'll go away." The only thing I do take is anti-inflammatories,
Hmm.
just so that, like, if my knees get swollen, I'll take something for that, so the swelling doesn't create a worse situation. but I don't take painkillers. And for me, it's just a different way that I deal with pain, right? Because then I know I'm alive. I'm alive.
And as I said just now, the pain is actually a symptom of something that's going on. So you get to be aware of it. Now, I'm a baby. If I'm in pain, I want something for it. However, those years in my wheelchair, and I will be diplomatic here, I spent 9 years on
Mm,
patches that begin with an F and end with a L, okay, which in some countries in the world are not even allowed to be administered.
correct.
And that was continuous to manage my pain. And I have a whole year that I hardly remember as a result of it. My sister
Mm.
came to visit from South Africa. I don't remember that visit. And
Oh
I
my
remember
goodness.
saying to my doctor at one point, this isn't a life worth living,
Mm.
you know. And fortunately, he stopped it. I was in hospital for COVID at the time, so I was in a safe environment. However, I felt pain, but I felt life.
Mm.
I experienced life. Now, stop me if I shouldn't be sharing this. I then, because all my life people have said, you shouldn't take this, you shouldn't take that. And often those medications were keeping me alive. I became totally closed minded to anything natural because
Mm.
everybody was prescribing without knowing my situation.
Mm.
Keep that in mind for emotional pain for other people too.
Oof. That's
So
huge too.
it totally turned me off listening to
Mm.
anything, taking anything. And I just recently, and you know the seafood, discovered an all natural supplement. And let me tell you, these things are incredible.
Mm.
I take those for my pain, and they taste really
Nice.
good. And if you want to know about them, message me. But you know what? There are natural solutions to these things. Yes, I do still take painkillers. I
Mm.
do still take painkillers. Okay.
And I just want to, I just want to say, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a different animal, right? And when I see somebody who is in tremendous pain, I mean, they have pain centers, for God's sake, and it's to help people handle pain.
Mhm.
I just somehow have learned how to handle it differently, right?
And what I was going to
Um,
say there, Sifu, was for anybody watching who feels any condemnation, I know Sifu, that's not what's coming out here. He has just reached a different level of mental mastery. Okay. And that is what he does. Look how calm he is. I'm sure if Sifu had a huge big building land on him right now, he would go, oh, because that's
there might be a little bit more like more than ouch, be like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. But
but there's a
consider
calmness there. And just because
I am
you
calm.
respond differently doesn't mean you respond wrong. So if you are somebody who takes painkillers, go for the natural versions if you can. But there's no condemnation in that.
No,
But
none at
don't
all.
use it as a first thing. Oh, I have a paper cut. I'll take half a bottle of painkillers because the negative impact on that is greater. And weigh it up, weigh it up. And yeah, I mean, I know Terry's watching on Jan. Thank you so much for being here, Terry. Love you dearly.
Absolutely.
And she does deal with pain every day, but she still keeps her productivity. She
I
still
love that
keeps
she's still
connected.
productive. It's not going to put her down. I love that, Terry. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that.
yeah. So
So,
I
for example, if you consider pain, for example, in the line of business that I do, I've set shoulders, I've set noses, I've set a lot of different things when people have gotten hurt. And I go, and there was an instance, there was a kickboxing class that was going on, and I was in a different room, and a young lady popped out her shoulder. And everybody's screaming and everything. And they call me over, and I come over, and I'm walking calmly because that's how I deal with things. I'm calm. And I walk in and I see everybody's like, oh my God, hurry up, do something. And I said, first, I got to ask you a question. And she's, crying. And I said, is it okay if I reset your shoulder? She said, please do. I said, okay, hold on a second. And her shoulder was reset. I said, how you feeling? She goes, amazing. I said, great. I'm happy to help. And I walked away. But had I rushed and would have done it because I thought that would have been the right thing, I would have been wrong, 100% wrong. And the same thing happens when somebody's going through emotional pain. You don't just come and throw up on them, right? We have to take the time to say, well, I may not know what you're going through, but would you like to talk about it?
Yes.
I can be there for you, right?
Yeah. I think we always get to earn the right to speak. And we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago where somebody said unsolicited advice causes offense. Not only offense on the person who you're giving the advice to, but also you end up being offended because they don't take your advice because it was never asked for in the first place.
Exactly.
And you get this snowball effect. But very often people don't want advice. When people are in pain, they want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged that it's okay for them to be there. And as our mentor Jose says, it's okay if you have that moment, you just can't stay there. I think he says 24 hours. I just tend to say, it's okay to be there. And my ladies, of whom Terry is one, say, yeah, I just can't stay there. And I go, that's right. So even while you're in your pain, you can shift your focus by saying, what are you going to do when you decide to get out of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the things that, like, I definitely deal with pain differently, including mourning. I'm not, I'll be honest with you. My fiance says to me, you don't have tear ducts, do you? And I said, why? She goes, I've never seen you cry, ever. Right. And she's known me before we even got together. She's probably known me for 20 somewhat years. And eventually we got together, but in all those times, she's never seen me. I've had relatives pass, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, and I don't react the same way that most people. And I'm not trying to be rude or because I have no emotions. My emotions, I drive them a little differently. So if somebody passes, the way I've learned for me, I celebrate them. That's what I do. And I have a picture of my brother every time I step out of my bathroom, his picture's right there. And every day I'm saying hi to him. And every day, I remember how funny he was, how beautiful he was. Right? He was taken too young. He was 42. He had a blood problem, but he was so funny. And I'm Spanish, and Spanish people, they freak out when somebody passes. And so even one of my sisters could not. She was screaming, flipping out, the whole deal. And I'm there, and I'm not even crying. And so I'm sure some of my family members are like, something is wrong with him, right? Something is wrong with him. But for me, I'm not there to mourn. I do miss him. Right? I do miss my mom, my dad, my sister that passed um, in 2024. But it's about celebrating who they were. So, like I said, I deal with pain differently than most.
And we call it a celebration of life. We don't call it a funeral.
Mm.
And a comment I made to somebody years ago, and it stuck with me, and I'm lending it to anyone who wants it. May your tears of grief mingle with happy memories.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Because just like we were talking earlier about the people who are going through grieving and mourning at the moment in LA, it
Mm.
is a
Oh,
grief. People aren't just depressed for no reason, they're grieving, they're mourning, there's a loss. And we get
mhm.
to acknowledge that, but at the same time, we get to encourage, we get to
Yeah,
bring hope so that there isn't this defeated feeling.
yeah.
Keep looking forward. And to me, that's one thing I saw in every single one of these authors' stories
Mm.
is how they found a bit of light that they could share for other people to move through their pain, not to eliminate it, but to grow through it. Because a tree has thick bark because it's weathered the storms.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, I kind of like
Uh,
that saying. I think I'll hold on to it.
yes, many prayers go out to everybody affected in California. I have a lot of friends there. I was telling you before, I'm doing a speaking engagement in California. I don't know if it's going to be happening, but it's so important to understand that. I heard somebody say that they don't feel bad for the celebrities who live there, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're humans too. So maybe they're celebrity, but they worked for that. They didn't get cast on a show because they were terrible at it, or they were terrible. Maybe they became a terrible person because the fame hurt them in a negative way. But they're still human beings. They're still God's children, whoever they may be. So my prayers go out to every single individual, whether they were homeless, which there's a lot of homeless people in California, or they were multimillionaires or billionaires who live there. They're all being affected. Right?
And their hearts are all the same.
Mm,
You know, their hearts all beat the same. Not in the same way, but every one of them has a heart that beats.
hmm. For
So,
sure.
and what we were saying beforehand was, I'm known as the joy junkie. And
Mm,
this is not a situation where I go in and I take Jibber in case you haven't met him. This is my cohort Jibber. And when I'm having a bad day, I grab his neck and I go, and he goes,
I
Jibber,
love
Jibber,
it.
Jibber. It shifts your focus, but it makes you smile. Now, I would not
Mm,
walk into a family that's just lost their home and go, oh, smile, Jibber.
yeah. Yeah.
But
No,
you
of
know what
course
I
not.
can? You know what I can say? I can say that joy is in the hope. My
Mhm.
saying is that joy is focusing on the promises of God through the arms and legs of the giants. So your focus shifts. Doesn't
Mm,
mean the obstacles are gone. And
mm,
if we can encourage people to continue to have hope, that's the way we bring joy to them. It's not about laughing and giggling and smiling in the midst of the chaos. It's about
mm,
encouraging people to have that inner strength. And for me, that's the promises of God, that they can go forward. That's the joy. That's the joy Christ felt carrying that cross that you were talking about earlier.
oh yeah.
Because the
I still.
joy, the joy of the Lord is
Mm,
our strength.
oh my goodness. Yes. Absolutely. I saw an interview with a man. He's standing with his wife. They lost their house. They had raised their children. Their grandchildren had come over, and the interviewers asked him a question. He goes, "I think," she said, "How are you feeling?" He goes, "I think I'm going to break down again." And his wife next to him said, "I think I'm going to break down." He goes, "You can't break down. You're my support system." Right? And but he laughed. So there was some joy when he recognized that she is his support system.
Mm.
Meanwhile, he didn't realize that he's her support system.
Yes.
Right? We need to support one another. Nikki, I got to tell you, what an incredible show. Thank you for being here with me, bringing joy when we are in pain,
Mm.
remembering that all storms do pass and the sun does shine afterwards. No matter what we go through, whether we lost someone, we're ill, we're going through cancer, chemo, whatever it is, we need to remember,
And
remember joy.
Sifu, thank you so much for having me on here again. And I always love listening, subscribing, whatever. But what we don't remember is that our pain brings clarity to our purpose
Mm,
because we stop losing our focus and being distracted. When we're in pain, we look at what is important. So don't discount your
mm,
pain ever. Look at what
that's
is
right.
the message you get through it, what clarity to your purpose is there. And I just thank you so much for being able to share some of my thoughts, some of my insights, even though they may be a little crazy, as some people say,
No.
they are right there. And just again, heartfelt encouragement and hope to those going through pain. And just because there are many people in California going through pain, don't dismiss your pain if you're somewhere else. You're not forgotten. We tend to only have capacity to focus on one area and we forget the pain the rest of the world is going through doesn't
Mhm.
stop because there's a new source of pain for people.
That's correct. Correct. Yeah.
So
Incredible. Always words of wisdom. Thank you, my dear.
thank
Such a
you.
pleasure. Everybody,
And
do yourself a favor. Give yourself a hug. Right?
mhm,
Let's do it now. Ready? We'll give each other ourselves a hug because we need to love ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves, and we need to move. Constant movement. Right? Thank you, Nikki.
thank you
What an
so much.
incredible day. Happy Friday. And
You
listen,
too.
I do have two other shows today. I do have Business Prowess at 11 a.m. And today, Jose Escobar is going to be joining us on Heroes Rising. And that man, he understands what pain is because his family was in a hospital for 10 years. His two, um, Dominic turned
Sorry, 10
three
days.
months old yesterday, 3 months old. And Judah, 2.5, and he's got his young girls at home that are RSV, but they persevered. They had each other, the family, the prayers worldwide. So I am so grateful that he's going to be joining us. He is my co-host on Heroes Rising, and he is so excited that he's going to be there with us today. So if you get a chance,
Totally
come say hi.
worth tuning in for, not just for me, for everybody. I know we've had the prayers going on my timeline. So if you want to meet the man you've been praying for, join on
Yeah.
Sifu's channel, Heroes Rising, coming up later today.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Having a beautiful and blessed day. Take care.
You too.